we go again with another of our Evolution Consulting info update videos. This one being recorded on the 2nd of February 2017 during trading hours. It's about 3 o'clock, market's getting ready to close on what can only loosely be described as a stellar day for metals. Continuing the upside that we saw last week, certainly on gold and silver. So for those of you that have been subscribing, or I should say are subscribed to Switch and Signal, narrative should be coming, or should be getting very, very clear now. As we so often do, and we freely admit when we do this, we are occasionally a bit early to the party, okay? And that is just a product, or I guess if you want to call it a side effect, of the way the 4.0 and now, more recently, the Ultra system works. They're discovering economic and geopolitical and sociopolitical and anthropological trends just so far in advance, guys. We're having to work on the timing, okay, just to get to know the program, so we don't do that. But again, especially when it comes to trading, guys, it is better to be early to the party, certainly, than late. But of course, we want to adjust that because you don't want to have your capital tied up, waiting around for the catalyst events that we do so often accurately forecast. So, we're working on that for you guys. But in terms of those of you that have been trading our perennial favorite metals ETFs, guys, JNUG, USLV, SLVP, GDXJ, GDX, and so on and so forth, guys. We're starting to see it happen. Again, it's, apologies for being early to the party, but we're starting to see a lot of the catalysts that we've talked about in there, as well as in these market and info update videos, all starting to happen. Okay, so that's kind of cool. Also, special thanks to Deb Carruthers, aka, for those of you that would like to follow a very interesting Twitter account, at Bankster Slayer. Okay, many thanks to her. I was on her YouTube podcast interview radio kind of thing. I want to say last Friday. And no, by the way, if you go to her channel, you can get a laugh out of this. You go to her channel right there. We're gonna have the interview up. It's about an hour and some minutes long. Okay, on our YouTube channel here under our media and guest appearances. But if you would like to listen to that interview, no, I did not know the camera was on. All right, I did that interview on my phone. I had my phone propped up on my desk. I had absolutely zero idea that the camera was on. I actually pushed the Google camera off button, but I guess I guess it's one of the more entertaining self-trolls that I've done. I had no idea the camera was on. So guys, if you're thinking that I get amped up and I get all intense for those interviews, if you think that's one big act, guys, it really isn't. Yes, I really do stand up and I'm pacing around and getting all fired up and everything. So no, that's not an act, and no, I did not know the camera was on, so that's a bit of comedy gold right there. At least you know what I look like now when I do radio interviews. It is actually a challenge occasionally for me to sit here this long and sit still and do these interviews, but nonetheless, guys, just a couple updates I wanted to pass along, and the reason we've done this in info update video format, and that is one of which has to do with something I don't very often talk about, which is the nuts and bolts operation of the Ultra and the 4.0 system. As you might imagine, we are very guarded about how those systems are designed and engineered, okay? But in the interest of bringing you guys, at least for the remainder of 2017, and we'll get to that in a second, a very complete and very accurate narrative, guys. One of the most difficult things from a linguistic research perspective, especially on the internet, is slang language or colloquial language, okay? Because of the speed to which that language evolves. Words go in and out of fashion. Call it, how all the cool kids talk, right? That is one of the most difficult things, and I think if you ask anybody in linguistic analysis or big data study, big data analysis, okay, that's one of the most difficult things to analyze from an algorithmic perspective, just because of the way the speed of language changes. And I mean, we see that now, certainly. I mean, just, for those of you that follow along on Twitter, okay, you can see how hashtags and how words, come in and out of fashion. I think, more recently as an example, woke, okay, and wokest. Okay, that those are kind of words that just happened as a result of the 2016 election, and to factor and build that in, you need that high-speed learning component, which is built into 4.0 and certainly built into Ultra. But that's what we're working on here, guys, is how to refine out that language such that we can provide a deeper level and a more clear and concise analysis. And that is, again, I think if you ask anybody that does any sort of linguistic research, that's one of the most difficult factors to adjust for, just because, especially now in a day and age, as we so often say, of speed of information, language and words come in and out of fashion so quickly that if you don't account for them, you can miss so much. But yet at the same time, you want them categorized as to what they are. I call that's temporary language. You have your permanent language, where it's just, it is what it is, and then you have kind of variations upon meanings of certain words and stuff. And that's really what we're working on here, guys. It's one of the final steps that we have before we're comfortable unleashing a production version of Ultra. Which we haven't yet. We've been really kind of providing, when we say we're providing Evolution Ultra information, that's from components of that system and from very, very, very experimental versions of the Ultra system, guys. But given what we've seen thus far, yikes, I hope it's not construed as arrogant, but it's if for what 4.0 is, consider it a very souped up version of 4.0 with a whole hell of a lot of extra functionality that we're not going to get into. But guys, in terms of what we're working on here, that's the big one. So for those of you that are interested in the programmatic components of what we do here, that is, again, anybody that studies language, I'm sure will tell you, just the speed to which language evolves, no pun intended. That's kind of a biggie. So we did want to communicate that there, guys, and that's especially important given some of the stuff that we're researching. We have a lot of stuff or a lot of information that we're going to share on Dr. Janda's show. Again, talk about somebody I have a tremendous respect for. And am very thankful that he's having me on the show in regular rotation, because I really do enjoy it. But in terms of we have some stuff that we're going to share, and I promise we're not going to, really let the proverbial cat out of the proverbial bag just until we get on the show. We'll be on the 26th. All right, it's some point between 2 and 5. When exactly, I have no idea on my calendar in front of me at the moment, but we will be on there the 26th, and we'll be sharing some stuff on there. And it is one of the reasons that we fine-tune, or we're in the process, I should say, of fine-tuning that language component, is we do want to run a couple extra scans before we go on his show. That being said, and as it pertains to the election specifically, guys, this election is produced, or this political cycle has produced more invented language than I think ever in history. And if anybody disagrees with that, you're welcome to email us. Please do. But one of the things that we're seeing now, guys, is validation of a thesis that we've had. We've had this thesis now for about a year, a little bit more than a year. And that is that election 2016, ultimately the Trump win, which we did forecast, was and is designed to be destructive to both sides of an obsolete political paradigm. And that is to say that, in our linguistic analysis, we do have to factor in, for the sake of forecasting accurately, so the so-called conservative and the so-called liberal agendas or points of view, whatever the case may be. And one of the things I'm going to communicate here, or as best as I can, and that is by telling you the way it is that both sides are obsolete. If you identify as a conservative purely and just, and this is not a reference to election, but you just vote the line on conservative, right? That's it. I'm a conservative. And you have, morphed to fit that right-wing narrative. And the same on the left. If you consider yourself a liberal or a progressive, and you've changed your own views to fit that paradigm, or that pre-manufactured perception of what leadership, politics, government, all of this, you're screwed. I don't know how to put that any other way. You're screwed. In terms of what's going on now, to understand what's going on, I don't know if you heard the ka-ching in the background, that's hilarious. Insofar as what's going on now, to understand what's going on, you have to really kind of look up the middle, and realize that what we're seeing is perhaps a controlled demolition of both sides. And that's probably the most important thing I can communicate to you guys at this point, is that to understand, Trump is not a conservative candidate. Trump proved how gullible the right wing is. That's what he did, All right, I don't know how to put that any other way. All right, maybe I'll get a nasty email out of that, and the fucks I will give you you need a nano electron microscope to measure them. Okay, but I'm telling you the way it is. All right, that left versus right. To understand what's going on now in contemporary American politics, and not just American, okay? Again, you can look to France. You can look to Le Pen in France, okay? What's going on there with the national populism movement. You can look to Germany, to a lesser extent. I would say France is ahead of Germany insofar as the rise of the nationalism, populism, globalism, magic cocktail, as I'm calling it. And you can even look up to Canada, all right? With O'Leary, something that we forecasted years ago, I want to say during our test of concept phase, for those of you that have been really following along, we said if Trump wins, he's going to, kind of clear a path for guys that would normally be in the private sector and stay in the private sector for their own best interest. Business guys, big business moguls, a guy like Kevin O'Leary, for instance, for those of you that are familiar with Shark Tank, okay, that's probably where he's best known for, excuse me, that they're going to look at public office and go, hell, maybe I can really make a difference. Maybe, my expertise in business and maybe my expertise in be that finance or industry, maybe that really can be helpful. Okay? And that's kind of what Trump did. So if you're stuck in that left side, right side paradigm of what it is to be a conservative or what it is to be a liberal, you're screwed. You're only getting half the equation at best. Okay? And I got news for you. You're obsolete. Those viewpoints are obsolete. Okay? So in terms of the language that we're seeing, guys, it's not a political evolution. Again, no pun intended. It's more of a, I guess if you want to call it, it's more of a perception-based evolution. All right? So when you're looking at what's going on, again, we analyze, we have to be as accurate as we are, from a completely detached perspective. I personally, and the rest of the dev team, we don't identify as conservative or liberal or progressive or anything like that, because we can't. Otherwise, we wouldn't. We'd be providing a biased narrative, and that's not what we do here. You can't be that accurate, okay? Or you can't be as accurate as we have proven to be, and have a bias one way or the other. So hopefully, if nothing else, we have your guys' respect, for that. But insofar as what's going on now, guys, from an economics and a trading perspective, if you can wrap your head around the fact that that whole two-party system, that whole left versus right, could neither side is really paddling civilization in the proper direction by our own linguistic analysis. That's not our opinion. Okay, but in a nonlinear sense, when you start to see systems starting to evolve for the sake of evolution, okay, call that chaos if you like, you start to see anomalous events like we're seeing. By a Donald Trump win, guys, by all accounts, would be considered a political anomaly. All right, and that word has been thrown around in mainstream media before, that the fact that he won is an anomaly. Now, yes, it is. If you're stuck in that left-right paradigm, it's like, holy shit, how did he win? If you're looking at it from our perspective, and granted, we have the ultimate luxury of having the Ultra system and the 4.0 system, it's not an anomaly. It's an inevitability. Okay? So with that being said, guys, from a trading perspective, all right, and if nothing else, I really haven't, I've been kind of suggesting a lot of the stuff that we've said in this video already, but this is the over the top of the head with the baseball bat style delivery. Is the left and right. If you're in either of that, I am a conservative, I am a liberal, it's over the head, guys. You're not, you really can't. I don't want to say appreciate what's going on because that's not the right word to use, but to understand what's going on globally, you have a hell of a lot harder time doing so. Okay. But with that in mind, guys, from a trading perspective, based upon the analysis or based upon the linguistics that we've seen, guys, the next 4 years, if you have an interest or you're so-called, I've been told many times, I'm a finance nerd, I'm an economics nerd, geopolitics nerd. I take that as a compliment. Okay, if you're into this stuff, okay, as far as, current events and how that affects finance, you couldn't ask for 4 more exciting years. You couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, just the volatility alone and how the volatility plays to the market and how the volatility plays to different sectors and equities, guys. It really is, it's not a matter of history repeating itself, but a lot of the ingredients from the 1980s are there again, okay? So there's that. Yes, we have the GER looming, the global economic reset. That is an inevitability, and we'll be doing another piece on that shortly. We'll also be including something in Wirehouse on that, but In terms of the market for the next 4 years and probably 8 years, guys, I've already been saying, I've been very open about this. Trump's a 2-year term president. It's his to screw up, really. And as simplistic as it sounds, look how he got elected. If he actually does build a wall and produce that result and repeal Obamacare and just do a few other things that his voter base wants, I wouldn't want to debate him. I wouldn't run against him in 2020. The EA, speaking of, we were having dinner recently, and she brought up a list of candidates that could potentially run against him. I go, that's a sacrifice list. The only thing, when I mentioned this on Bankster Slayer's show, and I want to go more into detail on it on Dr. Janda's show. Hopefully we have the time to do it. I'm only on there for a half hour, but if not, I'll certainly do another one of these. The only thing more dangerous than a guy like Trump is a guy like Trump with results, with proof that his way works. Because as I've said, and I've said this in another market update video before, he got elected. He wasn't a senator, he wasn't a governor, he wasn't a state senator. He's a business guy that got elected President of the United States on what he was going to do. Think about that for a second. All right? He built a reputation that put him in the White House on what he's about to do. So logic dictates, guys, the only thing that's more dangerous than that, and I don't use the word dangerous in a negative connotation or a positive connotation or context, okay? I use dangerous in terms of how much power one individual has over perception and over methodology, all right? The only thing more dangerous than him with what he's about to do is when 4 years later, 2020, what he's already done. Somebody like him with results, okay? With 4 years of proven results, I wouldn't want to run against him. Honestly, I just wouldn't. And we looked at, like I said, my assistant and we looked at some of the candidates that might run against him. I go, you think he was vicious on here's what we're about to do, and here's what we can do, and here's what we need to do. You want to run against that guy with, look what we've already done, and after it starts to work? I wouldn't, okay? People that know me personally know I'm not short on words, and I'm pretty quick-witted and such, but I wouldn't want to run against that. It'd be political suicide. But that being said, guys, in terms of our trading and in terms of the election update, in terms of, I call this the macro ADD style delivery of geopolitical events as they pertain on planet Earth, we can start to see that rise of the nationalism, populism, or as I call it, the new form of globalism, okay? It's full steam ahead. It really is, okay? And we're even seeing that in some of Trump's cabinet appointments. But in terms of how it pertains to something that really matters, like our own trading accounts, guys, all those things that we talk about in Switch and Signal and Wirehouse, even from last year, the pre-new format stuff, okay? All those catalysts are starting to happen. And again, we're trying to improve the timing even more on the 4.0 and the Ultra system so you guys don't have your capital tied up, okay? But apart from that, guys, it's looking now, and it's surreal for us to see a lot of the stuff that we forecast from 2 years ago starting to happen, and that narrative coming together the way it is. So point of the story, though, guys, for those of you that are trading the metals, for those of you that have been following our narrative on energy and oil, okay, the time is now to really start to leverage what's going on, and you have to do it almost from the left and right. You have to do it from a detached perspective, okay? But with that being said, guys, I do want to say a very sincere thanks for watching these, for subscribing, and for certainly a lot of folks are starting to pick up the Grand Street Notes guides and everything, which is really kind of cool. And we've gotten some really fantastic emails from you guys that are very encouraging, that are very complimentary to us. So we really do appreciate that. Okay. But again, 2017 is probably the last year we're going to be doing this publicly, at least the subscription stuff. We may still produce the Grand Street Notes guides, because you guys have to realize how much effort we put into being able to deliver the stuff that we do in Wirehouse. We have to do that once a month. And with a lot of the other commitments that we have now, and it was an inevitability, guys. If you're good at something for long enough, I hope a little bit of inspiration here. If you're determined enough and you're good at something for long enough, people start to notice, okay? And that's kind of what we've done here. Is we knew that we had to do the test of concept, proof of concept. We did it, proved our point, and now a lot of people are starting to notice, and that's kind of the purpose of building this system. So with that being said, guys, once again, thank you very much for the subscription. If you would like to contact us, if you would like to email us, it's usually somewhere over there. It isn't there. Where the heck? There it is. It's info at info at evolutionconsulting.world, info at evolutionconsulting.world. Okay, and if you want to follow us on Twitter, we've been getting a whole ton of new Twitter followers, so very cool stuff. At Evo_consultants, at Evo_consultants. Do feel free to follow us on Twitter there. Occasionally we do get in the mood and we have some fun on there. So there's that. By the way, guys, how about the Super Bowl yesterday? Yikes. Yes, I was rooting for the Falcons. Yes, I'm a disgruntled Steelers fan until further notice, or at least till next football season. Thanks again, guys. If you do like what you see, do hit the like and subscribe buttons. We'll be doing another market update video as well shortly. So we just want to do kind of a little bit of a state of affairs here at Evolution. All right. So again, thanks. Be good. Do remember that everything really is a transaction.